A few years ago, I made a pretty long video about the history of Aussie Rules Footy video games, where I kind of started in the 80s and timelined out one by one each of the main video game entries up until the then most recent release. And if you don't know what Aussie Rules Footy is, maybe give that video a whirl where I'll explain it better in a more scripted way. But basically, it's our own weird Australian brand of football that's incredibly complex, but I reckon it's the best sport in the world, no bias. And one of the crowd favorite video games that I talk about in that video is a game called Aussie Rules Footy on the NES. Great name. And there's an upcoming indie game coming out called Footy Bash that I got to check out courtesy of an early build code from its developer Danger Thumbs. And this reminds me a lot of Aussie Rules Footy, just pure, simple footy fun. So for a bit of background, I first played this game at PAX 2023, so last year, and you might have noticed that the backdrop of this early build is all PAX themed because this is going to be the demo that they show off at this year's PAX. I'll be there, say hi. And on last year's floor, this game was really popular. It was super janky, it was super early. I think it was only like 6 months in development, but being all cartoony and approachable and being in the footy heartland of Melbourne, people were crowding around to play it, and myself included. So when the developers reached out to me, having seen my old video on footy games, I was pretty excited. I was pretty keen to check out where this game was at about a year later. And again, I should note that this build is super early in development, assume everything is subject to change. And this isn't a paid sponsorship or anything, like I don't do those. I don't even really offer cover upcoming games, but I do have an affinity for footy games, and I don't know, I'm rather charmed by this, so I just wanted to talk about it. So the first time I booted up this demo, I was pretty bewildered, actually. I don't know, it's really fast, it's unwieldy. I was playing against AI, and it's a bit like Blink and you've had a goal scored against you, and being an ultra early build that, there's no onboarding, there's no tutorials or anything like that. It's just like a quick play mode, go try your best. But once I spent a bit of time with the game, I ended up landing on thinking that Footy Bash is genuinely onto something. Going back to my old video on AFL video games, a point that I made is that Aussie Rules Footy is really complex. It's really hard to simulate in a video game because there's just so many intricacies and complexities going on. And so Footy Bash kind of strips away a lot of those complexities. It even strips away some of the basics of Aussie Rules football. Like, there's no tackling, for example. There's no free kicks. You don't get to take an unimpeded kick after taking a mark, so if you catch a ball after someone kicks it to you, the game just flows on. You don't pause for a second to get another disposal away, and there's no real stoppages. I know none of this makes sense to people who don't know footy, but stay with me. There's no real stoppages in the game either, aside from boundary throw-ins, and as a result, this is really free-flowing. It just kind of goes and goes and goes and doesn't stop. Normally in footy, you take a mark and it's against the rules for any opponents to touch you. But in Footy Bash, you take a mark and opponents can just run up and start punching you in the head. So the way that they reward marking here is you jump up, you pluck the ball out of the air. As soon as you touch the ball, you'll do a ground slam and knock down everyone around you, teammates included, giving you a brief window of opportunity to get your next disposal away. It's a pretty inventive way of rewarding the mark without stopping play. I think it's a very fun little arcadey way of doing things, and marking itself feels pretty satisfying and immediate. You just have a jump button. It's like footy on the NES, There's no sort of timing the mark with some arbitrary circle that's enclosing on a position or relying on player stats or watching a marking animation play out. Instead, it's just kind of like jump, mark, slam. It's pretty satisfying. Another outside of the box thing this game does is instead of tackling, you punch. I'm sure you've noticed all the blood everywhere. Basically, you have a punch button and you spam it until you've knocked your opponents down, and then you take the ball yourself. There's no stoppage, you just kind of punch a few times, grab the ball, run. Beyond that, you can sprint, kick, handball, and use a special ability on a cooldown, where the only special ability in this demo is a sort of barge ability, but I'm told that there's several more to come. And once you start to get used to this game and the way it ebbs and flows and, the violence to it all, I think it does start to make a lot more sense, like I said. And those sort of sports game, exciting, risk-reward, micro decisions do begin to emerge. For example, you'll in a split second have to make a decision on whether you fly for a mark early, out of position, and risk not taking it, or whether you try to punch an opponent out before they go for a mark, or you just try to beat them to the mark first. Maybe it's better you sit under the ball instead of trying to jump for it so you can keep running with it. Beyond marking, you'll start to think about whether you can get a decent kick away before being punched out, or if you should just handball instead, or you'll be deciding whether to pinpoint a pass to a teammate or just go for distance, or you'll be thinking about when you should use your special ability, and some of them mirror footy really well, like you'll decide to go for the wing defensively or attack through the corridor depending on how much time is left in the game, or you'll be deciding whether you should have a ping at a shot at goal from outside 50 or try for a higher percentage inside 50. These are decisions that you'll be making what feels like almost every second in Footy Bash, if not more, And I think it's really exciting. You're kind of running around making all these quick calculations on whether to handball or kick or go for a long shot, or, it's rather smart considering how simplistic it is. And I think there's a ton of rebalancing and balancing that this stuff will need, and apparently they're launching into early access, so using early access I think is the right idea to iron a lot of these imbalances out. But the basics that are here are here. I think this is a good starting point, and it's refreshing for the footy video game scene to have something this simplistic but captures the essence of footy in a similar way to Aussie Rules NES. Now, I should mention that it's an early game and there's a ton of flaws that need ironing out too. Like, I've written out a few dot points here that I'll just go through now, but again, this game is early, so flaws like this are to be expected. But still, I think that the single-player AI are really, really weird to play against. Like, I was told that this game works better in multiplayer, and that's absolutely true. I actually had my friend over to play it, who I played the game with at PAX last year, which was a lot of fun, but yeah, the single-player AI are weird. They can handball it really, really quick, and yeah, that'll be something that I hope they iron out. The punch button is the same as the handball button, which I don't love because you sort of spam punch, and as soon as you touch the ball and pick up the ball, you'll accidentally press a handball a lot of the time. And handballing itself doesn't feel great because after a handball, sometimes your player just pauses for a moment, which is weird. Handballing probably isn't as useful as it should be at the moment too. Like, I wish there was more of a reason to do it, of a utility to it. Automatic player switching also isn't great. That's something I think could be improved. Like, it feels like I kind of had to manually switch to every contest, which wasn't the best. Punching itself feels really floaty to me. Like, it just kind of feels like you're maybe punching the air or wailing. You're just kind of spamming the button. I feel like there could be better feedback with how the punching feels. And that goes for the rucking as well. I never sort of got a great feel for what was going on in the rucks. I was told I just had to spam the punch button during rucks, and I didn't know if it was working or not. And, generally, I think there are questions around, depth and longevity to Footy Bash, recognizing that this is clearly a game for, casual players as much as anyone else. This is clearly going for the sort of immediately approachable, fun, quick footy gaming experience. But yeah, I guess we'll see how long its staying power is. But yeah, again, those are kind of the dot points that came to my head, and it's a really early game. This is pre-early access, and ultimately I think that Footy Bash has a ton of potential. I remember the first night that I played this, I had to pull myself away from it to get some work done. So I think that's a good sign. There's a lot of directions you could take Footy Bash. You could throw in campaign modes, or player stats, or player body types, and the different abilities are coming, and things like teams and unlocks. And I think that Footy Bash is a canvas more than anything else. As it is, it's expectedly flawed because it's early. It's very janky. I probably should talk a little bit more about how janky and weird and glitchy this demo can be, but that's to be expected. What I think it really is a fun starting point. A starting point for a game that I hope blossoms into something bigger and better as it goes along. I'll be keenly watching it. It's also hard not to be charmed by, its approachable and cheesy aesthetic. I'll close this video with a bit of gameplay just so you get a sense of it. And before I go, check out my main channel. This is actually my second channel, and this video is more of an unscripted thing. I've never really done a video like this before. Normally I have sort of really scripted videos on my main channel, but I just wanted to showcase this game because it's one that interests me, and I know I have a subset of my audience that followed me because of my old AFL video games video, so yeah. Maybe once Footy Bash is fully out, I'll put together a bigger, less verbose piece about it. I just wanted to talk about it a bit now and platform it a bit in a more low-key, second channel chill way. I'll stop talking now. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy videos like this, let me know. And yeah, Footy Bash is cool. I think it'll get better. I think it has a lot of scope to improve. And I hope it does. I hope it does.
Beautiful.